Welcome to Amish History. This is a diagram from 2014. Here, 30 out of the 50 of the United States have an Amish population. However, 31 out of 50 states now have at least one Amish settlement once Vermont joined the mix. As demonstrated in the diagram, we can see the Amish do not have any settlements on the western coast. There are also settlements located in the Canadian province of Ontario. This chart is based on the statistics gathered from 2012. Ohio is home to the most Amish people with 63,990. Pennsylvania had the second greatest Amish population with 63,785, but they have one more settlement than Ohio with 55 total settlements. Indiana ranks third in Amish population among U.S. states and Canadian provinces with 47,235 people. After the leading three states, we can see a dramatic decline in the total population for each state. At the bottom of the chart, you will see the totals for the population. In 2012, there were 463 settlements, 2,007 church districts, and an estimated Amish population of 273,700 people. The Amish are among the fastest growing population groups in America. In this diagram, we can see the growth of the Amish people over the last 100 years or so. According to the Young Center for Anabaptist and Pietist Studies at Elizabeth-Tow College in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, the total number of Amish is estimated to surpass 300,000 individuals. In 1920, there were about only 5,000 people in the church. The Amish church has grown roughly 6,000% over the last 100 years. Amish population growth and geographical sprawl will likely spawn greater diversity, producing an evolving number of Amish identities. The increasing diversity is not necessarily a threat to Amish life, but it will continue to confront their communities, as well as confuse outsiders who seek a clear definition of what it means to be Amish. The diversity in the Amish community has grown so much, Amish children in Holmes County, Ohio may have a Facebook account, whereas children in Adams County, Indiana may not even know how to use a cell phone. On this slide, we have a diagram of where the settlements are located for the Midwestern states shown. The settlements are not shown for Colorado, Kansas, Oklahoma, Montana, Nebraska, South Dakota, Texas, and Wyoming. As you can see, majority of the settlements are in Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Indiana. The most notable Amish settlement is Lancaster, Pennsylvania, right here by this arrow. Established in 1760, Lancaster is the most well-known and the oldest existing Amish settlement. Nearly 500,000 people live in Lancaster County, however, only about 7% of them are Amish. The second arrow here is Holmes County. Holmes County is the largest and arguably most diverse Amish settlement. In Holmes County, the Amish affiliations range from the Schwarzentroober Amish to the more progressive New Order Amish. Holmes County was the first Amish settlement to begin giving bus tours in the 1960s. As of 2012, Amish families in Holmes County average 5.5 children per family. Holmes County, along with Lancaster County, boasts the highest voting rate among Amish communities of about 13%. The third arrow here is pointing to Adams County. Geneva, Berne, Monroe, and Decatur all belong to Adams County. Adams County is the second biggest Amish settlement in Indiana behind Napanee, Indiana. The reason I pointed out Adams County is because of its proximity to Mercer County. Adams County is known for being one of the more conservative Amish settlements. Adams County is growing at a rapid pace compared to their more liberal cousins of Holmes, Arthur, and the New Order. Typically, the more conservative affiliations practice strict shunning, which may deter members from leaving the community. Finally, this fourth arrow here, that one is Arthur's, Illinois. This settlement is no bigger than any of the previous settlements I mentioned. In fact, it is estimated to be the 7th biggest Amish settlement. Arthur is special because the people in this settlement are very entrepreneurial. There are numerous cabinet, shop, and furniture businesses scattered throughout the town. On average, Amish families consist of 6 to 8 children per family. The Amish are known for having large families. In fact, 15 kids in a family is not a surprising number when discussing Amish family size. The English average about 2 kids per family, so this goes to show you just how big the Amish families are. On average, Amish families are 3 to 4 times bigger than the typical English family. Amish view their children as gifts from God, therefore the use of contraception is frowned upon. The size of an Amish family often depends on the community they are located in. Typically, the more conservative communities boast a higher rate of children. Based on the previous trends, the Amish are doubling their population every 21 to 22 years. This is mainly because they produce large families, while most of their children are baptized into the church as adults. Then the newly baptized members get married and start families of their own, and then the cycle continues on and on. The Amish have kept their growth rate for nearly 100 years. Little evidence shows the growth rate will change as well. If the Amish continue to grow at their current rate, they will surpass the current United States population of 327 million people in about 215 years. However, we cannot project this with certainty because too many things can change in that amount of time. The Amish communities were affected by COVID-19 just like the rest of the world. Because the Amish are such a tight-knit community, and because they have ignored most of the safety protocols in their communities, they have experienced a much higher average infection rate. While the infection rates in the Amish communities were high, the death rates were much lower when compared to the outside world. Because the Amish elders live with their families, they avoid the high-risk nursing homes the English elderly encountered. Some of the Amish were tested for the virus, but most of the cases in the Amish community are underreported. Away from the community, the Amish may be seen following the guidelines, like wearing masks and social distancing, but for the most part, life remained normal back in the communities.
Amish order is incredibly important in the Amish community. Amish life is basically dictated by a list of written or oral rules known as the Ordung. The Ordung outlines the basics for the Amish faith and helps to define what it means to be Amish. Before an adult is able to be baptized, they must understand the Ordung and be agreeable to follow the rules that are set forth in it as their life continues. As they continue to grow, like I'd stated, they must follow the rules or they could potentially be shunned for not following what the rules in the Ordung states. This causes a lot of problems in the Amish community if there is a member who decides that they don't want to follow what is stated. But for the most part, the Amish are known for following the rules that are set forth. Amish subgroups are groups of Amish who have broken apart from a group that was previously established. A lot of the times, like I stated in the last one, if they don't follow the Ordung, they will be shunned. This can cause a group of Amish to divide. If somebody doesn't like the rules that are stated and the rules are not willing to be changed, the Amish can have a dispute and they can separate. The Old Order Amish was separated from by the New Order Amish in the 1860s when they created their own group. This was the first time that the Amish had any type of separation. There are plenty of new subgroups that have been created since then. Some of the most widely known subgroups are the Beachy Amish, the Amish Mennonites, and the New Order Amish. And with each new subgroup comes new responsibilities and values that they follow. For example, the use of automobiles and electricity is widely known in the Beachy Amish and in the Amish Mennonites, as well as some simple things as wearing clothing that has some design to it. A lot of the times the Amish are so restricted to wear the plain colored clothing that these new groups are not necessarily making that a rule that everyone must follow. In the new Amish communities, a statistic showed that a new Amish community is founded on average every 3.5 weeks and shows that more than 60% of all existing Amish settlements have been founded since 1990. A census done in 1990 showed that there was 179 settlements in the United States. So even that long ago, the Amish were continuing to break apart and create their own rules as to what they want to follow. The census also stated that there could be up to 1 million Amish, including 1,000 new settlements by the year 2050. So they're predicting and assuming that the Amish are going to continue to grow at the rate that they're going at and to be much larger in the coming years. With these new Amish growth is going to bring forth economic, cultural, social, and religious change to the rural areas that they're coming to. A lot of these areas haven't had an Amish group settled there before, and if they have, they're not going to have more than the ones they already have, so it is going to bring forth change that most of the Amish are used to, but those living in those communities who aren't Amish are going to have an adjustment. Amish land is usually many acres that has farmland, land for animals, land for their home, land for their children, houses, churches, schoolhouses, and stuff like that. So what the Amish will do is they will buy land that is vacated by a farmer in a rural area that is close to the community services. Their big thing now is making sure that they are within horse and buggy distance of something. Now, they will take their horse and buggy on long trips, but it is time consuming and it does put a lot of stress on their animals if they are having to travel long distances. So for those new Amish groups who are willing to travel by car, it makes it a lot easier for them to get into town if they happen to live further out without having to worry about it taking most of their day. The Amish are beginning to be worried that the farmland might not continue to be available to them as the population of the Amish continues to grow. So because the Amish population is continuing to grow, they're running out of farmland, as I previously stated, so they need to look for new settlement opportunities. And with those new settlement opportunities comes new job opportunities as well. So a lot of the men are now beginning to participate in woodworking and construction to still bring home a good income and not have to rely so heavily on having so much farmland. So the men that are doing the woodworking, as you'll notice in Northwest Ohio and Northeast Indiana, you have a lot of businesses that are now selling Amish-built furniture. And a lot of people are starting to realize that the Amish-built furniture is usually more durable and sustainable because it is built in such a high quality. And the women are and men are known for putting finishes on them and making the furniture look really elegant and nice. The Amish are now also getting into construction, and they're building homes at a much faster rate than what homes were getting built at beforehand. And the Amish are also employed at a lot cheaper price. So people are getting homes built in very great quality very quickly without having to pay as much money. The new locations that these Amish are establishing and are bringing forth a lot new opportunity for the people that live there. So it's bringing them new furniture, new availability to having a house built. And also the farmland and the farmland that they still will farm on, it just might not be as many acres as they'd previously had. So the growing Amish families that was previously talked about in the beginning of this PowerPoint is causing the Amish to need bigger homes. With the average children per family and not using contraception, it makes for large family numbers, and the homes that the Amish had previously been living in are no longer capable of housing all of these people. In an Amish settlement, there must be multiple homes, churches, farmland, schoolhouses, animal barns, play areas for children, some of that stuff that I had already previously stated. Larger homes bring forth the need for larger land area, which is what the Amish are beginning to worry about. They're not only worrying about not having enough farmland, they're also worrying about not having enough land to just strictly build their homes. It is hard for the Census Bureau to get a good tracking on how many Amish are living in each family and how many kids they have, because the Amish don't like to really create something that is public knowledge for us. They like to have their own values and ways and kind of stay out of the public eye. With these Amish settlements, the settlements are defined to contain at least 3 households and include members in that settlement who are able to hold a church service. So a settlement could be very small and contain 3 houses, or it could be very large and it could contain up to 20, 30 homes. It doesn't matter. It's whatever the Amish groups consider to be their settlement is their settlement. The Amish settlements must be separated from the world, which is also becoming a problem because they're running out of the farmland. They want minimal disturbances and they want to be able to use as much of their land as possible. So that is why they will use their land for their churches, their schoolhouses, their farmland, their gardens, their planting. They'll use it to do their laundry. They will use every aspect of it they possibly can to get the most out of it. In Ontario, Canada, right now, they currently have 15 settlements with 4,400 Amish in them. So that shows you how many, the amount of people living in each settlement does not have to be uniform and the same. Amish are mainly known to settle in Midwest Great Lakes region where we live. And Ohio right now is home to the largest settlement with the most members coming in at 6,233 Amish. So they have over 6,000 Amish living in one settlement. New York is also the fastest growing, with 15 new settlements created since 2010. In the next 15 years, researchers believe that a county could be majority Amish if the Amish population continues to grow at the rate it is. Researchers are looking at Holmes County to be home to the most Amish and eventually be an only Amish county.
A long time ago in Europe, Amish farmers were persecuted because they refused to baptize babies or worship idols in the Catholic Church. But back then, the government and the church were mixed up together. The government tried to tell the church what to do. A lot of their ancestors were burned at the stake or had their heads cut off because they wanted to follow Jesus and live as the Bible says. They thought the Bible was a higher authority than any other government. Like Jesus, their magistrates didn't fight back when they were persecuted. Eventually they came to America to find religious freedom and good farmland. Their ancestors faced the same basic problems they still have today. Pride, disobedience, greed, and if they listened to what they said, they could save themselves a lot of heartache. They established many good traditions that have helped them to preserve their church. They try to stay away from worldly things and not get mixed up with government, but they do pray for elected officials and pay taxes because Jesus said that's what they should do. Over the years, their church has made many rules to help guide how they should live. They don't always understand the reasons behind the rules, but they do know that they hold a lot of wisdom because a person can't always make good decisions on his own. It's better to rely on each other than just on yourself. No sooner had Dirk Willems escaped from prison than a guard and sheriff took him in hot pursuit of him. It was 1569 in Dutch village of Asperen, and Willems had been jailed for joining a radical religious group, the spiritual reformers of the Amish. Now as he fled, those who would torture and pursue, perhaps execute him, he made his way safely across a frozen pond. The guard was not so fortunate. He broke through the ice, and as he sunk into the frigid water, he called for help. Williams could have considered this an act of divine judgment on his captorers and continued to escape. Instead, he stopped, turned around, and went back to rescue his pursuer, believing it was his Christian duty to return good for evil. Unimpressed by Williams' choice, the sheriff had him rearrested. Shortly thereafter, Williams was burned at the stake as a heretic. Jakob Ammann was an Anabaptist leader and eventual founder of the Amish religion, who helped to set some of the early beliefs of the Amish. Amish interaction with American culture began with immigration, as families arrived in two distant waves that coincided with major movements of German-speaking Europeans in North America between 1736 and 1770. About 500 Amish arrived from the port of Pennsylvania and sailed in southeastern Pennsylvania, counties of Berks, Chester, and Lancaster. A second wave of Amish immigrants came to North America roughly between 1815 and 1860. During these years, some 3,000 Amish left Europe, seeking both economic opportunity and freedom from compulsory military service, which was then becoming more common. A persistent Christian group that reaches back to 16th century Europe. The Amish Church emerged in 1693 under the leadership of its namesake, Jakob Ammann. Amish families immigrated to North America between the 1730s and 1850s, and their last European congregation dissolved in 1937. Since that time, Amish people have lived only in the United States and Canada. The Amish embrace Orthodox Christian beliefs, seeking to practice the teachings of Jesus in daily life, and baptize only those who voluntarily confess their faith in Him and commit to follow the regulations of their church. Where changing trains and urban depot in the 19th century were supported voluntary fire companies and marketing furniture to sophisticated urbanities in 21st century, they have always engaged the wider world. The mid-20th century provided to be especially tremendous period in Amish history. World War II had dramatically increased Amish exposure to wider society and prompted new questions about Amish relations with the world. At the same time, perennial Amish concerns about the mischievous young people took on added urgency in the American society, agitated by its own sense of crisis among its youth. World War II CEOs, including Amish men, were assigned to alternative labor and civilian service projects ranging from national parks to public psychiatric hospitals. For a decade or more, a significant number of young Amish men and women quietly but persistently prompted a kind of activism that sought to reform aspects of Amish religious life and encourage Christian services outside the church.